Okay, so what is .stat suite that we're going to see? So, well, it's a platform for the production and dissemination of high-quality statistical data. I'm mainly going to be talking about the dissemination. Okay, this is mainly what it's used for now. At the OECD, we are moving to the production part of the life cycle for it as well, and some other agencies are also using it for production. So some of the features is that it's very standard based. Well, I should say it's very based on the SDMX standard. Okay, it's like everything that you do in .stat suite is based around SDMX. It's componentized in that the architecture, the technical architecture, is made up of various modules, which some of them can be used like independently, okay, and installed independently and configured differently. And it's open source as well, so it can be taken and used freely. Okay, this has been done, but as we'll see, there's also a kind of like a membership model as well, where the members actually contribute financially to the collaboration. Okay, and for that they get some kind of extra features and support. So yeah, the standard models which are used in .stat suite, I mean, well, in the design of .stat suite, are SDMX. You know, this is mainly what we're going to be talking about. And GSBPM was also used in the design of how .stat suite actually covers the statistical life cycle. So I'd just like to ask the audience, who is aware of the GSBPM? Does anybody know anything about the GSBPM? Okay, so I can see one hand there. Anyone else? Two? Okay, at the back. So we do. Yeah, okay, so 1, 2, I saw one, yeah, okay, 4. Okay, so not so many people, but at least some of you know about the general statistical business process model. So yeah, that is a model that's maintained by the UNECE, and it's used as a kind of reference model for designing things around the statistical life cycle. So, as I said, .stat suite, the system, it's part of the SISCC, which is a Statistical Information System Collaboration Community. There's other things in the community rather than just .stat suite, and we'll see some of those things later on. But the community is made up of many members who are contributing financially to the community, and also some partners as well. The partners, you know, they contribute software, priorities, things like that to the community. So, for example, Eurostat, we collaborate with them very effectively and a lot, because .stat suite uses the NSI web service for its SDMX web service. Okay, so when you use the API in .stat suite, the web service, this is actually the NSI web service, which is developed and maintained by Eurostat. I'm not, you know, I could talk about that quite a lot, but you know, these are the community members. I mean, of course, there are some organisations as well that are using SISCC who aren't contributing financially, and this is okay. It's open source, I think we said, Thailand, they're not making a financial contribution, but they very effectively implemented .stat suite. But they don't have a say in setting the priorities for future developments, and they don't have an advanced support, if things go wrong. Okay, so enough on that. So .stat suite, I mean, it's not actually just one system, it's a suite of systems. And the main ones are the .stat core. So the .stat core is actually you can think of it as the data warehouse. Okay, this is where the data and reference metadata, structural metadata, and other things are stored. Okay, so when you upload your data, it's getting stored into .stat core. And the SDMX APIs expose the data which is stored in the .stat core. The .stat Data Explorer, so this is the thing that the public sees. Okay, so when somebody wants to browse the data at the OECD or in one of the members, they're looking at the .stat Data Explorer. And even though it's based around SDMX and .stat suite is based around SDMX, one of the principles about the Data Explorer is we don't really expose the fact that it's SDMX. Okay, because the idea is it's as user-friendly as possible. So for the users of the data, we don't really want them to know that it's SDMX. Okay, we want to give them the data and describe the data. I mean, they'll see that it's SDMX if they use the APIs, because the structures that come out of the APIs, they're SDMX structures. But when we're showing a kind of statistical table in the Data Explorer, there's nothing really about that table that says it's SDMX. Okay. So another system, another tool is the DLM, the Data Lifecycle Manager. So this is the thing that data managers and statisticians use, and you will use in the exercises to upload the data and the structures to .stat. Okay, this is the main thing that you'll use in the exercises tomorrow. So is there another one? Yeah, okay, so those are the three main kind of systems that make up .stat suite. .stat Data Explorer uses the Solar kind of search engine for the discoverability and the searching of data. We also use the Fusion Metadata Registry or we will use it, we're kind of integrating it at the moment, to allow the maintenance of our structural metadata, okay? And you can see this is the SDMX icon, and SDMX is really the kind of the glue between all of these different systems, okay? And the use of standards, the use of SDMX allows a kind of easy integration with things like R and Python and Stata, Excel, Power BI, etc. Okay. In some cases, there are connecting tools like connectors to allow the easy use of SDMX, the easy use of .stat with these tools. I'll show one in Power BI later on. So, as I said, SDMX is the glue in .stat suite. We have things like the category schemes in SDMX. This is what drives the topics list. Okay, on the front page of the Data Explorer. SDMX dimensions and concepts and code lists. These are what drive the search facets in the Data Explorer. And data flows and annotations, SDMX annotations, are what drive the presentation. Okay, so another, well, I don't know if it's funny, but just something to note is that in the Data Explorer, what you see are data flows. Okay, I mean, a table is basically a representation of an SDMX data flow. You don't see a DSD. Okay, you don't see a data structure definition, because the idea is that the data structure definition is like the underlying cube. This is where the data is stored. But what you present to the user is the data flow and how it's presented. Okay, and how it's presented is described in annotations. I'll show this later on, actually, as part of the structure. But just one thing, you know, if you're going to use .stat suite, is that what people are seeing are data flows and not really the underlying cube, which is a DSD. Okay. I just want to, has anybody got any questions at the moment? Because maybe this is quite a lot of like new concepts and things, so does anybody want to raise a point or question? No? Okay. Abdullah. Be careful of the speaker, Abdullah. Yeah, it's the latter one. It's the workbench. Yeah. So yeah, Fusion Metadata Registry. I mean, I wasn't really going to present it, but the idea with the workbench is that it acts like a kind of almost like an authoring tool. Okay, so you can use the interface of FMR, which is quite sophisticated, to create and to edit SDMX artifacts. But the place that it's stored, that those artifacts are stored, is actually .stat suite. Okay, so it's the FMR interface, but the underlying storage is .stat suite, rather than the FMR itself. Okay, when it's the workbench, it's not using the FMR to store it, it's using something else, which in this case is .stat suite. Okay, so something else that we built for .stat suite is the academy, the .stat Academy, which is a set of courses and certificates that you can use, and you can kind of get like achievements. You know, you can put on the CV or something like that, but or basically just gain the knowledge which is in the courses. So maybe if I show this a little bit, should be here. Oh dear, isn't it? Oh. And now I've got this. Can I stop pinning this somehow? Yeah. Okay. So here we are on the .stat Academy. Okay, so if I go here to courses, then we can see the number of courses that we have in the academy. I think I clicked it. Yeah. Okay. So even though it's like the .stat Academy, they're not necessarily about .stat, right? I mean, the introduction to SDMX is just about SDMX. It just describes like what SDMX is, a little bit about the business case. There are already kind of many people who have taken this, over 600. Okay. You know, you've got like SDMX vocabulary for beginners, introduction to SDMX structural modeling. So yeah, so these courses are available online, and they're like self-paced courses. So you can start the course, and pause it, and then you know, come back in a few days, and it will start the course from where you left it last time. Okay. There's also tests that are built into the course to help you kind of retain the knowledge. Okay, so after each section there's a little test. And in order to gain the certificate at the end of the course, you have to pass a final test. Okay, so so it's a good way to actually, you know, prove that you've learned things in SDMX rather than just saying it. So you know, these are available. There are more courses as well coming on SDMX mapping and reference metadata. So those are the courses. So now, so I mentioned the certifications, and if you pass, you know, each time that you pass a certification, if you pass like multiple certifications, you can gain these achievements. All right, so my achievements, I mean, I'm an instructor anyway, so you know, I have these kind of like, I have this like nice little badge here, but I've done quite a few courses here. So I'm level 4 expert, okay? I'm not level 5 master, and I was wondering what I have to do to become a master, because I've done so many courses, but apparently it's impossible to gain just at the moment, because we have to kind of publish the new courses. So, but yeah, I mean, please, you know, all these courses are free, and you can kind of build up your SDMX knowledge and your achievements through the .stat Academy. So yeah, well, just another question. Has anybody actually gone to the .stat Academy? Has anybody taken a course on there? Just raise your hand if you have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so yeah, another one. So, all right, maybe about half of the room. So you know, well done. And you know, if you haven't, or you just wish to kind of continue your learning journey, then please, you know, go and take some more courses. Okay, back to the slideshow. That was the .stat Academy. Okay. I think we just got a problem. Okay. So it stopped sharing. Right, okay, thank you. Okay. So now just talk about the Data Explorer. So this is the home page of the OECD Data Explorer. This is very out of date. We have a lot more kind of domains and subdomains now being actually disseminated through our Data Explorer. What's the next slide? Oh. Okay, just go back. So yeah, so that's the out of date screenshot. But if I go to, oops. Yeah. So this is our current OECD Data Explorer, okay, with everything that's up to date. And we can see here are the kind of the level 1 domains and the subdomains. So this on the landing page, I mean, you know, all of these are clickable, and if I click through it, then I'll get a list of data flows. But just to say, this is actually managed by a category scheme. Okay, an SDMX category scheme is the list of topics that we see on this page. And you know, you may think, well, getting all of the data managers, statisticians at the OECD to agree on what should be in the categories may be complicated. And you'd be absolutely right. It was a bit of a nightmare. I think we're up to kind of major version 5 on the category scheme now, you know, and trying to get everybody to agree. But now it seems very stable. You know, there's a lot of discussion around this. Yeah. I think technically, no. You can configure it to as many levels as you want, technically. But sensibly, yes. Because we only show the first 2 levels, right? Because if you show more levels than that, then here you'll have a very long table of some very, well, not complicated, but perhaps like esoteric subdomains. So we went with a kind of like a simple, relatively simple list that speaks to most of our like external users. So you know, you have something like, well, so the ones in bold are the level 1 in the category scheme, like agriculture and fisheries, economy, you know, health, things like that. And they can be clicked as well. And when we click on one of those level 1s, it will show everything under that level 1, but also in the subsequent levels as well, if there are level 2s and level 3s, etc. So, you know, but a level 2 is something like national accounts. Even though it's really, really important, it actually comes under economy as a level 2. And it is like the deepest kind of set of levels that we have. So let's just say we click on national accounts, okay? And then it will show all of the national accounts data flows that we have, like the national accounts at a glance, chapter 1, GDP. This is the first data flow that we have. But in this search facet on the left-hand side, we can see the actual topics. Well, they're actually categories in the category scheme, but you know, to the end user we expose them as topics. And we can see for national accounts, we have a 3rd level as well, like GDP and non-financial accounts. And then we have a 4th level as well, which is national accounts at a glance. This is still a category. Okay, and if I click on this, then I'll get all of the data flows for national accounts at a glance. So yeah, I keep on talking about, like, you know, data flows in the .stat Data Explorer. So let's open one and see what it looks like. So here we have like the data flow, and we have the description of the data flow, okay, and the dimensions in it. It's very important to actually include the description of the data flow, because when people select one of the categories and they see a list of kind of like health data flows or national accounts data flows, then it should help them distinguish what the differences of the data flows are. Here it's not been done very well at all, because it's the same description. Okay, so this is something that we'll probably raise with our, that we will raise with our national accounts team. But anyway, let's open a data flow, which is GDP and national accounts at a glance. It may be quite large, so like a lot of national accounts ones are, or just complicated because the number of dimensions. So hopefully I'm not going to have to select a different one. Okay. So here we are at the data flow. So the first thing that is shown is not the actual table, but it's the description. This can be configured to actually show the table first instead of the overview or the description. It says, you know, the number of data points that will be shown in the table is 912. Okay, so let's open the table, and so this is the GDP data in the national accounts at a glance. Okay, so along here we have the time series in the columns, reference area we have the countries, and then you know, we have the data. So you may be wondering, well, what does 2.03 mean? Yeah, okay, it's for like year 2000 for Australia, but what it means is actually described here. So in this table, or in this, at least the selection in the table, these are single fixed, so frequency is annual. The measure that we're looking at is real gross domestic product growth rate. And the unit of measure, it's called combined unit of measure here, but I'll just explain why. But the unit of measure is a percentage change, okay, and chain linked volume. Now, I'm not a national accountant, and I'm not exactly sure what that means, but in .stat suite, what you can do is you can be quite specific about the unit of measure, whereas here it's percentage of change. But in the label for unit of measure, you can say, well, concatenate two different concepts, or even more if you want, because it may just kind of look better to the user. So the ones that are concatenated here, like and the comma is a separator, is percentage change. And chain link volume may be like something like transformation or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, this is one of the more complex concepts because it's national accounts. Maybe it wasn't the greatest thing to show. But yeah, so this is a typical kind of data flow. And the selection of what we're seeing can be changed here in the filters on the side. So we can change the time period. You know, this is showing all data from 2000, which is quite a lot really. We usually recommend to show less time. It's only showing one measure at the moment. We can bring something in like GDP as well, and this will add to the table and change the presentation. I'll just wait for that to refresh and then get back to the slides. I think I'm going a little bit beyond what I wanted to show at this point, but let's see. So yeah, so because I brought in another measure, so measure is what we at the OECD, I think what Abdullah introduced as an indicator basically. It's like the thing that's been measured, okay? So yeah, so because we're showing more than one measure now, rather than having it single fixed at the top of the table, it's brought it into this like section area of the table. So for this value here, this is gross domestic product as US dollars, PPP converted, billions, which is the unit multiplier, and current prices. Okay, so so the combined unit of measure here is actually 3 different elements. The actual unit of measure, if we look at the code list, is US dollars PPP converted. Okay, this is the unit of measure. The unit multiplier is billions, and current prices, what is it? Is it price adjustment or something like that? I can't remember, but anyway, it's a separate concept, you know. It's just that what .stat suite allows you to do is to have very clean structures where your code list model just one aspect of the data, but then in the interface to actually show a more kind of user-friendly representation of it. Okay, so that's enough on the Data Explorer kind of table for now. I mean, there's lots of other things I could talk about here, but for there, I'll just pause and I'll see if there's any questions. Does anybody want to raise anything at this point? No? Okay. So, yeah, so, yeah, go on. The no the okay, so what's the connection again? The limitation on the columns, I'm not sure if there's really a limitation on the columns, okay, technically. There is a limitation on the number of like cells, you know, the data points. The default limitation is 6,000, but that can be raised. That can be raised, okay? For some of our tables, we make it larger, but we recommend not to, because the more data you have in the table, the longer it takes to render, okay? And really the design principle behind the Data Explorer is to show users a kind of like a starting set of data, okay? So you show them by default just a small set of data, and if they want to see more data, then they can get it by selecting more data on the side, okay? If they want to get all of the data, then they should really use the API. Because if they're going to get all of the Data Explorer is not the best place to actually have a look at that, because if they want to get it all, they usually want to do some kind of like analysis on it, like processing of it. So they should use the API and get it into like Python or Stata or Excel or something like that, and then perform some processing on the data. The Data Explorer is not for that. Okay, it's got a fly in front of me. Okay, so am I? Yeah. I think the technician's gone just when I need him for my. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've got a problem there. Do I just share the screen, or when that happens, do I just share again? Okay. Okay. So all right. If that happens again, then I'll just do that. Okay. So yeah, back to my slides. So yeah, as I said, yeah, Data Explorer, it's got loads of features. Maybe we'll come back to that. We haven't even had a look at the API, but or maybe it's a thing for another day. But anyway, so the user's perspective of the Data Explorer, you know, what it's supposed to do is to let users just easily access the data. Okay. They don't have to know that it's SDMX. You know, if a journalist is going to pull data or just view some data in the Data Explorer, then they don't need to know that it's SDMX. They're looking up, like, you know, evidence. You know, and also using like Solar Search, using just the search box, it's easy to actually find the data in the first place. I mean, because if they can't easily find the data, then they're never going to see the data table anyway. So these are two of the kind of the main guiding principles in the design of the Data Explorer. This fly is really annoying me. Okay. So yeah, as I said, number one, the Data Explorer should enable efficient finding of data by easy navigation, and then the data, so users should be able to check whether the data can fit the requirements, what they want to get it for, and get contextual reference metadata. So I'm going to show the reference metadata tomorrow, you know, how we actually designed our reference metadata structure. And also they can download the data from the Data Explorer using like several kind of formats and APIs. Yeah, and they can also share it. So yeah, so talked about Data Explorer quite a bit. So now, which is like obviously the front end. So let's start talking about the back end. Okay, so which will probably most concern you guys. You know, as kind of, if you're going to end up being like, you know, data managers or kind of implementers of .stat Suite or just do SDMX. So in .stat, we at the OECD, we have a number of workspaces in .stat, okay? So the easiest one, and the one that we've just been looking at, is the dissemination workspace. So basically, once the data is ready for disseminating from the OECD, so that means that the structures are final, all the data has been prepared, it's been approved by managers, etc. Then it goes into the dissemination space. Okay. Another public workspace that we have is the archive space. So archive space just means that this is all data which won't be updated anymore. So it's like a read-only public workspace for the data. It's actually stored on a different machine with like slower hardware and everything, so it doesn't affect like the dissemination space. So that's like at the public end. That's at the end of the thing. So at the starting end, whilst you're actually designing your structures and you want to preview the data and then play around with the structures because it doesn't look very good, you use the design space. Okay, so in design space, you're doing what you did yesterday in the exercise, which is, you know, and today really, you're designing your structure, you're kind of mapping your structure, and you may be like changing codes, even changing dimensionality, things like that. This is what you use the design space for. It's completely separate to dissemination and anything like that. It's like a real kind of sandbox. You've also got some other spaces like collect for collecting data and process for like aggregating data, things like that. And then just in the middle of so a space which is like in the middle, well, between the design space and dissemination, so this is not publicly exposed, is this pre-dissemination space. Okay? So what this is used for is that when you've designed your DSDs and your data flows and your code lists, okay, and it's been determined that they are correct, you may have like a quality control team or something like that. If everybody agrees that those structures are correct and they won't change anymore, then they need to be finalized, okay? Because when you finalize a structure, it means, okay, this is good, it won't change anymore, all right? And in fact, that needs to happen before the data is disseminated, okay? I mean, our golden rule at the OECD is that, and I feel as though it should be in any kind of dissemination system, is you should never disseminate data in a non-final structure, okay? Because if you disseminate data in a non-final structure, that structure can change, and anybody who's using that structure, all their systems could break, all right? A non-final structure, you can delete a code, you can delete a dimension, you can change everything, and no one is protected. You know, you can't build a kind of contract around that data structure. So before you disseminate, before you actually put it, like offer it up for use to external people or, well, in any kind of processing scenario, it should be finalized. Anyway, so back to this pre-dissemination space. So when the structures are finalized, everything's been agreed, we put the structures into pre-dissemination, and then the statisticians can start loading the data into that space. They can start preparing the data for dissemination. Okay, they prepare the data for dissemination, but maybe the data is not complete yet. Okay, so they may have, like, you know, a couple of weeks or something just to build the data up and to get it ready. It may be under embargo, something like that, but this occurs in the pre-dissemination space. And then when everything is ready, they use this function called transfer, and they transfer it to dissemination when it needs to be disseminated. Okay, so our main spaces at the moment, and this is what TAWISAP has as well, is the design space. This is for experimenting with your structure. The pre-dissemination space, this is for finalized structures, but it's not, the data's not ready to be disseminated yet. And then the disseminate space, which is publicly exposed, the data goes out. Okay? Some organizations, they don't have this pre-dissemination space. They don't feel as though they need it, but you know, we have all of this, and we'll probably add to it as well. Any questions on this workflow? Okay. Okay, dissemination on .stat suite, the data view. Well, I think I've already shown this, so I'm not going to go into this slide. It's just, yeah, I mean, I showed the table, I showed the filters, the kind of search facets, basically. So let's skip that. .stat suite API features. Of course, the API is SDMX based. It uses the NSI web service that was developed by Eurostat. You know, this has been integrated to be part of .stat suite. Other systems use the NSI web service as well, which aren't based on .stat suite. It's just, you know, this is one of the kind of core SDMX products. So, yeah, well, let's quickly see if I can show the API. So here we are back at our table in the Data Explorer. So yeah, so this is our table, right? And say if I want to extract that data via the API, so I go here, and the data query is already configured to pull out the data that we were looking at in the table. Okay, all of these codes here are basically what we were looking at in the table. So if I copy code, if I put it, in here, then it should give me, if it doesn't time out, then it should give me the extraction. Okay. So this format is what is it, like yeah, 2.1 generic, but you can get it in SDMX CSV format as well, and other formats. Okay, you just have to change the API. Oops. You can also get the structure for you know, for this like DSD, this underlying DSD. So if I go here, then it will return it will return the SDMX for all the parts of the structure that we were looking at. So this is the data flow that we were looking at. So we can see the ID, the agency, is final true. Of of course it's final because we were looking at the disseminate space. Yeah. Or we use annotations a lot at the OECD to actually drive the configuration of the data table, like how everything should be laid out. I'm not going to go into it right now because, again, it's really useful. I mean, I wouldn't say it's complex, it's just very complete, and there'd be a lot of things to talk about. Yeah, okay, back to my slides. Still working, yeah. Yeah, so .stat Suite is integrated with, or it's being integrated with Fusion Metadata Registry Workbench. I mean, well, at the OECD we're still integrating it on our side, but but other organisations have actually done this already, so it does work. And yeah, it's a way of using the FMR interface to actually maintain artifacts which are stored in .stat Suite. So say if you want to add a new code to a code list, then you can use the FMR interface to do that, the FMR workbench interface. So some other SISCC tools, which are kind of .stat Suite related. So one of them is the SDMX matrix generator. So we use this extensively at the OECD to actually design our structures. Okay, some other organisations use it extensively as well. So basically, it's Excel based, Excel macro based. You know, some organisations have some security problems using it because their organisation doesn't allow them to use macro enabled workbooks. But just to very briefly show it, okay. So the design principles behind the matrix generator. First and foremost, it is supposed to embody the SDMX data modeling guidelines, okay, which are part of the guidelines. So it follows the same process. So yeah, system of health accounts. First of all, in the modeling guidelines, what you do is you look at the existing indicators that you have and you want to remodel in SDMX, and you build up the list of concepts and the list of data flows. So this is what the decompose worksheet allows you to do. And every time we remodel something at the OECD, we always do this. Okay, we say, what are our existing indicators? I can show a better example because this is we have to kind of put quite a few things. What is an existing indicator? This is several things here. And what are the concepts needed to describe that indicator if we're going to kind of decompose it and come up with a much better, much cleaner structure? And we can see, for this, it's we converted it to, we're measuring health expenditure and financing, unit of measure percentage of GDP, certain things set to total, and certain things, have no use at all. So price base, I don't know if that's a dimension or an attribute, but here it would be set to not applicable because it just doesn't apply to this kind of indicator. Okay. And from there, you say, okay, well, after you've gone through everything, then you have your list of concepts. You put them onto the concepts worksheet, okay, and you describe them, you give them a name and a type and things like that. You list your data flows. Here are the 4 data flows, okay, for system of health accounts. You just got one, we ended up having one DSD. So all this is kind of normal, but one of the main advantages of the matrix generator is the matrix part of it, surprise, surprise. where you create the relationship between the DSD, the data flow, and the concepts, and the constraints. Okay, it allows quite an easy way to actually show how to constrain a data flow. So for this data flow, health expenditure and financing, it's constrained to the measure of EXP health, whatever that is. I guess it's like, for some reason I can't click on the code list. Yeah, it's because it was stuck on a thing. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, and other things are set to kind of not applicable. So yeah, but basically you build up the set of constraints. And here we can see the code lists. Okay. I don't know why I can't click on that code list. It's Excel's having fun again. So that's a system of health accounts, and then once you build all of that up, then you go to this generate page, and you can say, okay, generate everything, and what is output is a lot like the local registry in the SDMX generator. Okay. Which you used, last couple of days. So that was system of health accounts. Another one. This is another health kind of subdomain, health resources. So we did the same thing again. We went through the list of existing indicators, found out what are all the concepts for these indicators. You build up the list of concepts in the concept scheme. Okay, there's quite a few others for this, for health. Is it health resources? Yeah, health resources. We've got many data flows here for this subdomain, and they're just described in the data flows worksheet. One per row. Okay, I mean here we have what, about 19 or 20 data flows, and then you bring them all together in the matrix, and the matrix allows like an easy way to compare those data flows. So in the end, you come up with like quite an efficient way of kind of grouping the data and allowing users to break down the data. So that's kind of matrix generator in a nutshell. So this is one of the tools that come under the SISCC tools umbrella. Like we maintain it, or I should say I maintain it. Yeah, and I released version 3 just last week. Yeah.
So there are 3 most popular structure maintenance tools. And the first one, the one that you used, is SDMX structure maintenance. Speak up. Which one? Structure maintenance tool. SDMX constructor.
Oh yeah.
The one that you used to develop DSDs. And the second one is matrix generator, and the third one is Fusion metadata registry or Fusion workbench. They're not arranged in any particular order. Each can be used whenever most appropriate, right? And please pay attention to matrix generator. It can be very useful and also easy to use. Okay. One issue that you need to be aware of is it uses Excel macros, and unfortunately in some organizations they are disabled by default and they're difficult to re-enable. So, but you can download it, You can try it. If you can use it, good. If you cannot use it, well, maybe you want to talk to your IT administrators and ask them to enable Excel-enabled, macro-enabled Excel files. And finally, Fusion Metadata Registry, very powerful. It's not just a metadata maintenance tool, it's also a metadata dissemination tool, platform. But it's a server application, right? So usually you don't install it on your computer. Usually you install it on a server. So the bottom line is what I'm trying to drive again and again. Which tools you use does not matter. SDMX is based on a standard, and you can create the same DSD with SDMX constructor or matrix generator or Fusion Metadata Registry. Just use whichever one suits your environment the most. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard that some people like the matrix generator so much they just use it on their own machines because their organization doesn't allow the macros. So yeah, maybe another way. Yep. Okay. And another thing with the matrix generator, you can pre-fill the matrix generator with an existing SDMX file. Okay. So if you have an SDMX XML file and you want to see it in the matrix generator, then you come to the pre-fill page, you put in the file path, or it can even be an API URL because it's stored in .stat suite or something like that. Click the button and then it will populate the matrix generator. All right, and there is a user guide as well for it. So you click that and it'll download the user guide, which tells you how to use it. And you can contact me. So that was matrix generator. Another thing is DLM XL add-in. So the DLM, this is the data lifecycle manager. This is the thing that we're going to use, okay, for the exercise. But the XL add-in is actually an XL add-in, surprise. What this is used for is to edit data or add data and edit reference metadata. I'm not going to show in fact, I'm not going to show either of those right now because the demo for that, I can wait until I talk about reference metadata tomorrow. All right, but once it's installed, and it's very easy to install. I mean, literally, you just like click on a link and it adds it to a menu. Can we actually see? Because I've got this pop-up. So yeah, if I go, just to show you the menu for it. Oh, come on. Where's my mouse pointer? I can't see it on screen, and I can't actually. Yeah, I think it's just there. Yeah. Okay, so you click on that menu and you get this thing here and you say new table, and then you say like which space you actually want to download or add data or reference metadata to, and then it'll take you through a wizard where you can query for it. It creates a table, okay, and then you can start like adding data or reference metadata. And yeah, so Abdullah mentioned that for the SDGs, they developed a Word document for the rich text editing for the SDGs. With this, you can actually do rich text editing for any of your DSDs. Okay, so in Excel. Okay, so I don't know if it covers all of the functionalities, what you need of the SDGs, and this was of course developed after you did the Word document, but we use this for every single one of our like data flows or DSDs at the OECD. Okay, it caters for everything. We'll see when it comes to the demo. Finally, just before we test that the .stat instance works for you guys, there's the SDMX Power BI connector. Okay, so what we did here was we created a connector for Power BI to be able to import data from an SDMX API. Okay, so we created the connector in a way that you had to install it. Okay, and it worked very well. So then I approached Microsoft and said, look, you know, can we make this a licensed connector so everybody will have it just out of the box when they have Power BI? Then we went into a very, very long kind of quality control process, where I had to like convince them that this was a public good because SDMX is an open source standard. You know, it's official statistics. We're not trying to sell something, and eventually they agreed. So, Power BI. So I'm just launching Power BI Desktop. I installed it today. It's like the vanilla version. It's not like an OECD special instance or anything. I'm not going to do a demo of actually getting the data. I'm just going to show you that the connector exists, and if you use Power BI Desktop, it should exist for you as well. You just got to be able to find it. And this shouldn't take very long to start off, to start up. It didn't when I did it last time. Hopefully a few more. Yeah, okay, so we're here. So yeah, so here we are, Power BI. Power BI. So I'll just say, okay, let's create a blank report. Okay. Get data. So now we have these common data sources. Okay, so the connector's not. I didn't do such a great job with Microsoft that they put it into the common data sources. But if we click on more, then we have many more data sources, right? Fortunately, I can search here, and then we have this connector. Okay, so when they agreed to this, I was really happy because for the first time, you know, SDMX actually gets some visibility in Microsoft products. So I don't know how many people's using it, but you know, I certainly don't use it every day, but I'm told that, yeah, this has certainly made people's life easier when they want to create dashboards from SDMX data sources. Okay, so you do this, and you know, it creates like a little wizard where you put the URL, you put the display format, you know, show me codes and labels, codes or labels only, and then you choose a language preference. If there is one, you can just leave that blank. And when you say OK, it will populate a, what do they call it, like a power table or something like that, where you can then drag your the various concepts onto whichever visualization you want to. Well, so that's a Power BI connector, and I think that's the end of talking about .stat Suite for now. So now, I mean, it's just about the end of the day, but I just wondered if you can all try this in preparation for the exercise tomorrow. Well, just before that, does anybody have any questions? You all want to finish for today, I guess. So, but please let's try this, okay? Because if we can all get it working, then it puts us into like a really good position tomorrow, where we can just go to the exercise, and we can complete what you did with the structure and with the data, and you can all upload data into the dissemination system, which is .stat Suite. So please, everyone, if you could go to this link, okay, you can enter this into your browser. Well, it should be, so I think you are working in pairs, right? So whoever's email you used when you were doing the exercises, you know, you had like an agency ID, okay? Whoever was actually doing that, then please, that person should go to this link. Okay, And if you're wondering whose email it was, then hopefully I've got like the agency schemes. Come on. Yeah. So these are the agency numbers with the emails. Oh, well, it should be showing. Yeah. Yeah, I can't make this any bigger. Okay, so yeah, whoever's agency number you are using, there's an email associated with it, so please go to the link that was on the screen, and for the user, enter the appropriate email. Okay, so okay, this is the link. So has anyone not gone to this link yet? Well, I'm talking about, you know, in pairs. So if you're working in pairs, like one of you should go to this link. It's DLM6 LMIS.systems. Is anybody trying but having problems? Okay. So when you go to that link, the user should be the email, okay, that was associated with the agency ID. And the password is Jakarta with a capital J, and then you'll be prompted to change your password. Okay, so please change the password. And once you've done that, then that's it for today. Okay. Okay. So it seems as though everyone has successfully done it. I hope you've all used the proper email with the agency, but we'll find out tomorrow. So yeah, I think that this is it for today. And when we come back tomorrow morning, I'll describe the exercise. The exercise is not a very long exercise, if everything goes okay. And yeah, so that'll be first thing tomorrow. Abdullah, you look as though you want to say something.
Yeah. Can I have your attention for a second? When you go home, you take SDMX constructor with you on your laptop. SDMX converter you don't take home, but you don't need that because you have this instance which Rayhan kindly configured. If that instance is disabled for whatever reason, you still have the Eurostat instance of SDMX converter. In exercise 3, you have addresses of both the BPS installation and the Eurostat installation. So I encourage you to use the Eurostat installation as well. In order to use the Eurostat installation, you need to register with the European Commission, create a profile, register your mobile phone, and then either install an application from the European Commission or register your cell phone number and then authenticate via SMS. The .stat platform was set up for this training. You don't take it home with you, and it will disappear soon after the training's over. Just keep that in mind. So if you want to keep with you any structures and data that you publish here, make sure that they're saved on your laptop and don't delete them. I mean, of course, if you ask me, I will always send it to you, but I'm sure that you'd rather keep the structures that you created with agency 5, agency 6, agency, rather than my agency 10. I'm sure it's much more, creates a much better memory. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and at the end of the exercise, obviously, you know, if you want to take screenshots of what you've done, especially, you know, if you have like some report to write up, then yeah, you should do that at the end of the exercise, because who knows when it's going to disappear afterwards, you know, for another training session. And another thing, another prerequisite for the exercise is doing what Abdullah showed you, which is to do the mapping without the source attribute, okay? Because there's kind of a technical problem or a technical limitation on that on the training instance of .stat Suite, not on .stat Suite itself. So if you try to load source, it'll go above this kind of limitation, and the upload of the data won't work. So just make sure you take source out of the mapping and you regenerate your data file. Okay. And I think that's it for today.
Yep. See you tomorrow at 9:30 for the final day of our workshop.